There's something you've been doing your entire life that's keeping you trapped in anxiety, stress, and endless mental loops. And the crazy part, you don't even realize you're doing it. But once you see it, everything changes. Right now, as you're watching this video, your mind is probably already racing ahead, thinking about what you need to do later, replaying conversations from yesterday, or trying to figure out what this secret could be. And that right there, that constant mental chatter, that inability to just be present in this moment, that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. This isn't some self-help nonsense or quick fix solution. This is about understanding something so fundamental about how your mind works, that once you get it, it literally changes how you experience every single moment of your life. Here's what nobody tells you about thinking. We've all been taught that we are our thoughts, that the voice in your head, the one that's constantly commenting, judging, planning, and worrying, that voice is you. But here's the thing that will blow your mind. That voice is not you. Think about this for a second. If you are your thoughts, then who's the one listening to those thoughts? Who's the one that can step back and observe what you're thinking? Right now, you can hear that mental voice talking to you about what I'm saying, but you're also aware of that voice. So which one is the real you? The voice, or the one listening to the voice? This is where most people get completely lost. We spend our entire lives identified with this mental narrator, this running commentary in our heads that never stops. It's like having a radio that you can't turn off, constantly broadcasting thoughts about the past and future, but almost never about what's actually happening right now. And here's where it gets really interesting. This mental voice, let's call it the ego or the thinking mind, has convinced you that it's trying to help you. It tells you it's protecting you by constantly analyzing, planning, and worrying. It says things like, what if this goes wrong? Or I should have done that differently. Or I need to figure this out right now. But here's the secret that could change everything. This constant thinking isn't helping you at all. In fact, it's the source of most of your suffering, the prison of psychological time. Let me explain something that might sound strange at first, but once you really understand it, it will change how you see everything. There are actually two completely different types of time operating in your life right now, and most people spend their entire lives confused about which one is real. There's clock time, the practical time we use to catch buses, show up to meetings, coordinate with other people, and basically function in society. This is the time that ticks away on your watch, the time that helps you organize your day and meet your responsibilities. Clock time is useful, necessary, and completely neutral. It's just a measurement tool, like a ruler or a scale. But then there's psychological time, and this is where everything goes wrong. Psychological time is the time your mind creates when it's constantly living everywhere except right here, right now. It's the mental space where your thoughts drag you backward into memories or push you forward into imaginary scenarios. And here's what most people don't realize. This psychological time isn't real at all. It's a complete fabrication of your thinking mind. But we treat it as if it's more real than the actual present moment. When your mind is lost in psychological time, you're never actually here. You're always somewhere else, like a mental time traveler who's forgotten how to return to home base. You're reliving old conversations, replaying past mistakes, rehearsing future arguments, planning elaborate scenarios that will probably never happen, or worrying about problems that exist only in your imagination. Your body is sitting right here, breathing, alive, present, but your mind has wandered off into this fictional realm of past and future. Think about your typical day and really be honest with yourself. How much of it do you actually spend in the present moment? If you're like most people, the answer is probably shocking. You wake up and immediately start thinking about everything you need to do. You're in the shower, but mentally you're already at work. You're eating breakfast while mentally planning your evening. You're having a conversation with someone, but you're not really listening because you're thinking about what you're going to say next, or what you need to do after this conversation ends. You're driving, but your mind is somewhere completely different. You're trying to fall asleep, but your mind is replaying everything that happened during the day, analyzing conversations, planning tomorrow, worrying about next week. This constant mental time travel isn't just exhausting, though it definitely is that. It's actually creating most of your emotional and psychological problems. Think about it. When you're lost in the past, what do you experience? Regret about things you did or didn't do, guilt about mistakes you made, resentment about how people treated you, sadness about things you've lost, anger about injustices that happened years ago. When you're lost in the future, what happens? Anxiety about things that might go wrong, worry about problems that haven't happened yet, stress about meeting expectations or achieving goals, fear about losing what you have or not getting what you want. But here's the thing that will absolutely blow your mind once you really see it. None of these problems exist in the present moment, right now, in this actual moment. Not your story about this moment, not your thoughts about your life situation, but right here, right now. Are you okay? Is there actually a problem that needs your immediate attention? Most of the time, if you're really honest, the answer is yes. You're fundamentally okay right now. The problems exist in your mind's projection into psychological time, not in present moment reality. We've become so addicted to this mental time travel that we literally can't stop doing it. It's like having a drug addiction, except the drug is thinking about time that doesn't exist. We think that by constantly replaying the past, we're somehow learning from it, or processing it, or honoring it. We think that by constantly planning and worrying about the future, we're being responsible or preparing ourselves or solving problems before they arise. But most of the time we're just creating more problems in our heads. The past already happened. You can't change it by thinking about it. The future hasn't happened yet, and most of what you worry about will never actually occur. Meanwhile, real life is happening right now, and you're missing it because you're lost in psychological time. You're missing the taste of your food, the feeling of air on your skin, the sound of birds outside, the expression on someone's face when they're talking to you, the simple miracle of being alive and aware in this moment. This isn't about never thinking about the past or future. Sometimes you need to remember things or make plans. But there's a huge difference between using your memory and planning abilities as tools when they're actually needed, and being constantly dragged around by compulsive thinking about past and future. One is functional, the other is a form of mental prison that keeps you from ever being fully alive. The illusion of the separate self. Now here's where things get really deep, and this might challenge everything you think you know about yourself and reality. The fundamental reason you can't stop thinking, the reason you feel anxious and stressed and like you need to constantly figure everything out, is because you believe something that isn't actually true. You believe you're separate from everything else. You think there's you on the inside of your skin, and then there's the world on the outside. And your job as this separate individual is to figure out how to navigate this foreign, unpredictable, often hostile environment. This sense of separation is so basic to how we experience reality that we never even question it. It seems obvious, doesn't it? Of course you're separate. You have your own thoughts, your own feelings, your own body, your own problems. You're clearly distinct from other people, from animals, from trees, from rocks, from everything else in the universe. We take it completely for granted that we're isolated individuals, trapped inside our own heads, trying to make our way in a world that's essentially alien to us. But what if I told you that this entire way of seeing yourself and reality is just a story? What if this feeling of being a separate self, cut off and isolated from everything else, is actually just a persistent illusion created by your thinking mind? This might sound crazy at first, but stay with me and really think about this. Where exactly does you end and the world begin? If you really look for this boundary, it becomes very hard to find. Your body is constantly exchanging atoms and molecules with the environment around you. Every breath you take brings the outside world inside you, and every exhale sends part of you back out into the world. The air you breathe literally becomes part of your blood, part of your cells, part of what you call yourself. Then you breathe it back out and it becomes part of the world again. So is that air you or not you? The food you eat becomes your body. Those carrots and proteins and vitamins literally transform into your muscles, your organs, your brain tissue. Where you end and the food begins is completely arbitrary. The water you drink becomes your blood, your tears, your sweat. The sunlight that hits your skin creates vitamin D in your body. You are constantly taking in the world and the world is constantly taking you in. Even more fundamentally, think about your thoughts and personality and knowledge. Everything you know came from outside you originally. Every word you can speak, you learned from other people. Every idea in your head was influenced by books you've read, conversations you've had, experiences you've absorbed from the world around you. Your personality was shaped by your parents, your culture, your friends, random encounters with strangers, movies you've watched, places you've lived. So where exactly is the independent, separate self in all of this? The more you really look for this separate self that you think you are, the more elusive it becomes. It's like trying to catch your own shadow. The very act of looking for it seems to push it further away. You might say, well, I'm the one who's aware of all these thoughts and experiences. But if you look for this one who is aware, what do you actually find? You find awareness itself, but not some separate thing that possesses awareness. And here's the really wild part that changes everything once you see it. This illusion of separation is exactly what keeps you trapped in constant thinking and mental suffering. Because if you're separate from life, from the world, from the intelligence that runs the universe, then you need to constantly figure everything out yourself. You need to be hyper-vigilant, always planning and analyzing, and trying to control outcomes. You need to protect this separate self from all the threats in the hostile external world. But what if you're not actually separate at all? What if you're not some isolated individual trying to survive in an alien universe, but actually an expression of the same intelligence that grows trees without thinking about how to do it, that beats your heart without you having to figure out the rhythm, that heals cuts on your skin without you needing to consciously direct the process? What if you're not separate from life, but actually life itself, temporarily expressing as this particular human form? If that's true, and the more you look into it, the more obvious it becomes, then maybe you don't need to think so much after all. Maybe you don't need to have everything figured out. Maybe you can trust the same intelligence that's running the rest of the universe to also guide your life, just like it guides everything else. Maybe all this mental effort to control and predict and manage your experience is not only unnecessary, but actually interfering with the natural intelligence that wants to flow through you. The futility of seeking. This brings us to something that might be hard to accept, something that goes against everything our culture teaches us about how to live a good life. Most of what you're seeking in life, happiness, peace, love, fulfillment, meaning, security, you're actually seeking in completely the wrong place. We spend our entire lives looking for these things in external circumstances, in future achievements, in other people, in possessions, in experience. We think that if we just get the right job, find the right relationship, make enough money, buy the right house, achieve the right goals, travel to the right places, then we'll finally be happy and peaceful and complete. This seeking is so fundamental to how we approach life that we rarely question it. It seems obvious that happiness comes from getting what you want and avoiding what you don't want. The entire structure of modern society is built around this assumption. Work hard, achieve success, accumulate things, build relationships, create security, and then you'll be happy. But here's what nobody wants to hear, what goes against everything you've been taught. Seeking happiness in the future is like trying to catch the horizon. The closer you get to it, the further away it moves. Think about this carefully. Have you ever actually arrived at lasting happiness through getting something you wanted? Maybe temporarily, sure. Getting a promotion feels good for a while. Finding a romantic partner creates excitement and joy. Buying something you've wanted gives you a brief satisfaction. But how long does it last? Pretty soon, the novelty wears off, and you're back to seeking the next thing. You get the job you wanted, but now you want a better job. You find love, but now you worry about losing it, or you notice what's missing in the relationship. You buy the car, but now you want a nicer car, or you're stressed about the payments. The seeking mind is like a hungry ghost. No matter how much you feed it, it's never satisfied. It always finds something else to want, something else that it thinks will finally bring lasting fulfillment. I'll be happy when I lose weight. Then you lose weight and it's I'll be happy when I find someone who loves me. Then you find love, and it's I'll be happy when we get married. Then you get married, and it's I'll be happy when we have children. Then you have children and it's I'll be happy when they're old enough to be independent. And on it goes, an endless cycle of seeking that never actually delivers what it promises. But here's what's really strange. Think about the times in your life when you've been truly happy, not excited or temporarily pleased or satisfied, but genuinely at peace and content, genuinely happy in a deep way. Chances are those moments happened when you weren't trying to be happy at all. Maybe you were watching a beautiful sunset and you got completely absorbed in the colors and the light. Maybe you were playing with a child or a pet and you forgot about everything else. Maybe you were listening to music that moved you, or having a conversation where you felt completely connected to another person, or walking in nature and feeling part of something larger than yourself. In those moments of genuine happiness, you weren't thinking about happiness at all. You weren't seeking it or trying to achieve it or working toward it. You were just completely present with what was happening. You had temporarily stopped the seeking mind and dropped into simply being here now. The happiness wasn't something you got from outside yourself. It was something that was revealed when you stopped looking for it elsewhere. This is the great paradox that most people never understand. The thing you're seeking is already here. The peace you want is available right now. The love you're looking for is present in this moment. The completeness you think you need to achieve is your natural state when you're not seeking something else. But because you're constantly looking elsewhere, constantly focused on what you don't have or what you think you need, you miss what's already available. This doesn't mean you shouldn't have goals or preferences or work toward things you want, but it means recognizing that your fundamental well-being, your basic okayness, your deepest peace and happiness, these don't depend on getting anything. They're not achievements to be earned or prizes to be won. They're the natural state of awareness when it's not agitated by seeking. The seeking itself is what creates the sense of lack, the feeling that something is missing. When you stop seeking, you realize that nothing was ever missing. When you stop running toward some imaginary future fulfillment, you discover that fulfillment is here now, waiting patiently underneath all your mental activity. The very thing you've been seeking your whole life has been closer to you than your own breath, but you couldn't see it because you were looking in the wrong direction. The art of non-resistance. Here's something that will completely change how you relate to difficult situations. Resistance is what creates suffering, not the situation itself. Pain is inevitable in life. Things break, people leave, bodies get sick, plans fall through. But suffering is what happens when you resist that pain, when you fight against what's already happening. Most of us have been taught to resist anything unpleasant. We think that's what strength looks like. fighting against what we don't want. But this resistance is actually what keeps us stuck in suffering. It's like struggling in quicksand. The more you fight, the deeper you sink. Non-resistance doesn't mean becoming passive or not taking action when action is needed. It means accepting what's already happened so you can respond to it clearly, rather than reacting from a place of resistance and emotion. Let me give you an example. Imagine you lose your job. You can resist this reality. You can spend days or weeks thinking, this shouldn't have happened, it's not fair, what am I going to do, this ruins everything. Or you can accept that it happened and ask, what's my next step? The situation is exactly the same in both cases, but your experience of it is completely different. Resistance creates a layer of suffering on top of whatever's actually happening. Acceptance removes that layer and allows you to see the situation clearly. This doesn't mean you like what happened or that you won't work to change it. It just means you stop fighting against what's already real. And when you stop wasting energy on resistance, you have much more energy available for actually dealing with whatever you're facing. The power of present moment awareness. Now here's where everything we've talked about comes together. The present moment isn't just another concept to think about. It's the only place where real life actually happens. Everything else is just memory or imagination. But most people completely misunderstand what the present moment is. They think it's something you have to find or create or practice getting into. But the present moment isn't something you can be outside of. You're always in. The question is whether you're aware of it or lost in mental time travel. Present moment awareness isn't about stopping thoughts. That's impossible and not even desirable. It's about recognizing that you are not your thoughts. You are the awareness in which thoughts arise and pass away. Try this right now. Notice that you can hear sounds around you. Maybe there's traffic, or air conditioning, or people talking. You don't have to do anything to hear these sounds. The hearing just happens naturally. Now notice that in exactly the same way, you can be aware of your thoughts. They arise in awareness, just like sounds arise in hearing. This awareness, this capacity to know what's happening without getting lost in what's happening, this is who you really are. Not the thoughts, not the emotions, not the stories about your life, but the awareness that knows all of these things. When you start to identify with this awareness instead of with your thoughts, everything changes. Problems don't disappear, but they lose their emotional charge. Difficult situations still arise, but you don't get swept away by them. You start to experience a kind of inner stability that doesn't depend on external circumstances. The intelligence of not knowing. Here's something that might surprise you. Most of your problems come from thinking you need to know things that you can't possibly know. You think you need to know how your life will turn out, what other people think of you, what the right decision is in every situation, how to avoid all future problems. But what if not knowing is actually perfectly fine? What if the need to know everything is just another trick of the thinking mind to keep you trapped in constant mental activity? Life is fundamentally mysterious. You don't know where your next thought will come from. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. You don't even know why you're alive or what consciousness is. And that's not a problem to be solved. That's just the nature of existence. The thinking mind hates not knowing. It wants to figure everything out, categorize everything, predict everything. But life is much more spontaneous and unpredictable than the mind wants to admit. Most of the best things that have happened to you probably came out of nowhere, completely unexpected. There's a tremendous intelligence in not knowing. When you don't know what's going to happen, you stay alert and responsive. When you don't have everything figured out, you remain open to possibilities you couldn't have imagined. When you stop trying to control life, you start to work with it instead of against it. This doesn't mean being irresponsible or not making plans when plans are needed. It means holding all your plans lightly, recognizing that life rarely unfolds the way you expect it to, And that's often a good thing. Living as awareness. So how do you actually live from this understanding? How do you make this practical in your daily life? The key is to start recognizing the difference between functional thinking and compulsive thinking. Functional thinking is when you use your mind as a tool to solve problems, make plans, communicate, create things. Compulsive thinking is when your mind uses you, when you get lost in endless mental loops that don't serve any useful purpose. Most of our thinking is compulsive. It's just mental habits running on autopilot. The same worries, the same internal arguments, the same stories about ourselves and other people, playing over and over again. You can start to break free from this by simply noticing when it's happening, not judging it, not trying to stop it, just becoming aware of it. The moment you notice that you're lost in thought, you're already stepping back into awareness. You're already beginning to disidentify from the thinking process. This awareness practice isn't something you do for a few minutes a day and then forget about. It's a way of living. It's about bringing conscious attention to whatever you're doing, whether you're washing dishes, talking to someone, or sitting in traffic. When you live as awareness, rather than as a thinker, life becomes much simpler. You stop creating problems that don't exist. You stop fighting battles that don't need to be fought. You start responding to life rather than reacting to your thoughts about life. Decisions become easier because you're not paralyzed by overthinking. Relationships become more genuine because you're actually present with people instead of lost in your head. Work becomes more effective because you're focused on what you're doing rather than on your commentary about what you're doing. This isn't about becoming detached or emotionless. If anything, you become more alive, more responsive, more engaged with life. But you're no longer at the mercy of every passing thought and emotion. The secret I've been talking about isn't really a secret at all. It's been pointed out by wise people throughout history in different words and different contexts. But it remains hidden to most people because it's so simple that we overlook it. You don't need to become anything other than what you already are. You don't need to achieve some special state or solve all your problems or figure out your life purpose. You just need to stop being what you're not, which is your thoughts. The peace you're seeking is already here. The love you're looking for is already present. The wisdom you think you need to acquire is already available. It's all here in this moment, obscured only by the constant mental activity that you've mistaken for yourself. This understanding doesn't solve all practical problems. You still need to pay bills, maintain relationships, take care of your health. But it completely changes your relationship to these challenges. Instead of being overwhelmed by life, you start to flow with it. Instead of being a victim of circumstances, you recognize yourself as the awareness in which all circumstances arise. The most profound spiritual teachings often point to something incredibly simple. Stop, be quiet, and notice what's already here. Not what you think should be here, not what you hope will be here in the future, but what's actually present right now. This moment is the only moment there is. This awareness is who you really are. This peace that exists underneath all your mental noise is your natural state. Everything else is just a story. If this perspective resonates with you, there's more to explore. Hit subscribe for deeper insights into conscious living.